Lucas and Emily were the couple everyone envied. They met in college, a whirlwind romance straight out of a movie. For 5 years, their life was a tapestry of shared dreams, laughter, and inside jokes. Lucas believed he had found his soulmate, the one person he would build a future with. He was already saving for an engagement ring, picturing the surprise on her face, the tearful yes, the beginning of their forever. He loved her with a depth that felt infinite, a love he thought was returned in equal measure. But beneath the surface of their perfect life, a crack was forming. It's one that would soon shatter his world into a million pieces. It started with small things, easily dismissed at first. Late nights at the office became more frequent. Her phone, once left casually on the coffee table, was now always in her pocket or face down. She'd smile, but her eyes wouldn't quite meet his. Lucas, blinded by love and trust, told himself he was being paranoid. He was just stressed from work. Emily loved him. She would never hurt him. He pushed the doubts away, clinging to the image of the woman he fell in love with, the woman he thought he knew better than anyone. The nagging feeling wouldn't go away, though. It was a cold knot in his stomach that tightened every time she canceled their plans for a last minute. Work emergency. One evening, after she'd canceled their anniversary dinner, Lucas felt a wave of suspicion he couldn't ignore. He decided to do something he never thought he'd do. He opened their shared tablet and checked her location history. His heart hammered against his ribs as the map loaded. The pin wasn't at her office. It was at a fancy downtown hotel, a hotel she had no reason to be at. The air left his lungs. It was a punch to the gut, a betrayal so sharp it stole his breath. He drove to the hotel, his mind a chaotic storm of denial and dread. He sat in his car across the street, watching the entrance, praying for a logical explanation. An hour later, his worst fears were confirmed. Emily walked out laughing, her arm linked with another man's. It was Mark, Lucas's own colleague, a man he'd considered a friend. They shared a lingering kiss under the hotel's glowing sign before parting ways. In that moment, Lucas's world didn't just crack, it imploded. The love that had been his anchor was now the source of an unbearable agony. The man who had been a friend was now a symbol of utter betrayal. He drove home in a daze, the city lights blurring through his tears. The apartment they had built together, once a sanctuary of love, now felt like a prison filled with ghosts of broken promises. Every photo, every shared object, was a painful reminder of the life he thought he had. That night, sleep was impossible. The image of Emily and Mark was seared into his mind. Grief, raw and all-consuming, washed over him. But as the hours ticked by, a new feeling began to surface, pushing through the suffocating sadness. It was cold, sharp, and focused. It was rage. The love he once felt had curdled into a desire for something else, something he had never felt before: revenge. The heartbroken man from the night before was gone. In his place was someone with a new, chilling resolve. He wasn't going to break down. He wasn't going to confront them and create a messy, emotional scene. That's what they would expect. No, his revenge would be calculated, methodical, and devastating. He would dismantle their lives just as they had dismantled his. He went to work, a mask of normalcy firmly in place. He greeted Mark with a friendly nod, the betrayal a burning fire hidden behind his calm exterior. He had a plan. Lucas knew that Mark was leading a major project at work, a project he was incredibly proud of, and that was crucial for his next promotion. Lucas also knew that Mark had been cutting corners, fudging numbers, and taking credit for other people's work to get ahead. Lucas had always overlooked it, attributing it to Mark's ambition. Now, it was ammunition. For weeks, Lucas worked tirelessly in secret. He stayed late, not for his own projects, but to gather evidence. He meticulously documented every discrepancy, every email where Mark claimed others' ideas, every falsified report. He compiled it all into a neat, undeniable dossier of professional misconduct. Meanwhile, he played the part of the loving boyfriend to perfection. Brought Emily flowers, cooked her favorite meals, and listened to her stories about her stressful days at work. Each lie she told was a twist of the knife, but it only strengthened his resolve. He was a master actor on a stage of his own making. He even planned a surprise getaway for them, a romantic weekend at a secluded cabin, telling her they needed to reconnect. Emily, oblivious, was thrilled. She saw it as a sign that he was finally shaking off his recent moodiness. The trap was set. The weekend of their trip arrived. The day before they were set to leave, Lucas executed the first part of his plan. He anonymously sent the dossier on Mark to the company's CEO and the entire board of directors. He knew the fallout would be immediate and catastrophic for Mark's career. Then he packed for the trip, a strange sense of calm settling over him. He was ready for the final act. The drive to the cabin was filled with Emily's cheerful chatter about their future. She spoke of travel, of buying a house, of all the things they would do together. Lucas just smiled and nodded, his heart a cold, heavy stone in his chest. When they arrived at the beautiful, isolated cabin, he let her settle in. He poured 2 glasses of wine and led her to the deck, overlooking a serene lake. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was achingly romantic, a perfect backdrop for a perfect lie. "Emily," he began, his voice steady. "There's something I need to tell you." She looked at him, her eyes wide with anticipation, likely expecting a proposal. Instead, he looked her straight in the eye and said, I know about you and Mark." The color drained from her face. Her smile faltered and collapsed. She started to stammer, a flurry of denials and excuses. But Lucas held up a hand to stop her. He calmly recounted the night he saw her at the hotel, the dates, the times, every detail he had observed. He told her about the evidence he had gathered on Mark and how he had sent it to their company's leadership that very morning. He explained that by the time they returned to the city on Monday, Mark would likely be unemployed and professionally ruined. Emily's shock turned to horror as she realized the extent of his actions. She began to cry, to beg, to apologize, saying it was a mistake, that she loved him, but Lucas felt nothing. The love he'd had for her was gone, burned away by the betrayal. "It's too late for apologies, Emily," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "You didn't just make a mistake, you made a choice. You chose to betray me with my friend in our life while I was planning our future." He then delivered the final blow. He told her he had already packed all of her belongings from their apartment and put them in storage. The lease was in his name, and she was no longer welcome. Her key wouldn't work. He had made arrangements for her to be picked up by a taxi in 1 hour. He was leaving her there, at the secluded cabin, to reflect on her choices while he drove back to his life, a life that no longer included her. He left her standing on the deck, her world crumbling around her, just as his had crumbled weeks before. As Lucas drove away, he didn't feel triumph or joy. He just felt a profound, empty quiet. Revenge hadn't healed his heart, but it had given him a sense of closure. It was a painful, brutal end to a beautiful story, a lesson learned in the harshest way possible. He knew the road ahead would be long, but for the first time in months, he felt like he could finally start walking it, leaving the ghosts of his past behind. He had lost everything, but in doing so, he had found himself again. Thank you for watching. If you've ever been through something similar, know that you're not alone and that healing is possible. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories.